Why you feel stuck. Let's think about your everyday routine for a second. The sheer amount of exhausting effort you exert every single day just to move forward. You try, you put in the energy, and yet you look around and you're living inside a life that feels suspiciously stationary. You wake up, you push hard, and somehow at the end of the year, you are sitting in the exact same spot.
So why do you feel stuck? Honestly, our very first instinct is usually self-blame, right? We assume we're just lazy, we assume we failed somehow, but you're not failing. You are actually experiencing a completely different reality. See, continuous movement is happening, sure, but it isn't producing any actual distance. It's like having your foot permanently pressed on the gas pedal, but the car is up on blocks.
Which brings us to our first point, movement without direction. This is that intimate daily grind we all know so well. You wake up, maybe you set the alarm a little earlier. You tell yourself, okay, today is going to be different. But despite all that genuine heavy effort, the basic structure of your day stays identical. The stress is exactly the same. The things that drain your energy are exactly the same. You are still moving, yeah, but the actual boundaries of your life haven't budged an inch. And because you're moving, there is no direction. See, staying in this constant state of motion makes it almost impossible to notice that you are essentially standing still. Your brain just registers the exhaustion and immediately assumes, well, effort must equal travel. You are moving in circles, but that intense effort creates a perfect, seamless illusion of direction. Let's look closer at that. Section 2, the illusion of progress. We end up tricking ourselves through all this action. Step 1, optimize. Step 2, manage. Step 3, repeat. You know the drill. You organize your desk. You download a new habit tracker. You tweak your morning schedule. And rearranging those existing habits feels like you're building real momentum. But actually, you aren't breaking the pattern at all. You're just managing that exact same pattern a little more efficiently. It's false progress. Every single new habit you build just gets quietly absorbed by your existing environment. Sure, you optimized your morning routine, but you're still driving the exact same route, feeling the exact same underlying anxieties. It feels deeply engaging, but it never actually requires you to step even 1 inch outside of what is completely familiar. And that leads into Section 3, signals are not change. The cold, mechanical reality of the systems we live in is pretty simple. They don't motivate you by offering massive, life-altering success. They motivate you through tiny, isolated signals of progress. A checked-off task, a cleaner inbox, a temporary sense of control. But actual change is disruptive. It's unpredictable. The system strongly prefers those safe little signals. And so, you keep going. The system around you rewards every little small adjustment you make. So you continue investing your effort. You get that quick hit of dopamine, and you fully believe you're getting somewhere. You're completely unaware that you are really just maintaining the engine of the very machine that is keeping you firmly in place. Is this actually leading somewhere? Think about it. When was the last time you honestly stopped and asked yourself that? The emotional reward we get from constant self-improvement quietly, slowly, erases the need to even ask the question. We become so utterly obsessed with how to keep moving that we completely forget to ask what we are actually moving toward. Let's zoom out a bit. Section 4, alignment with the structure. There's a saying, force creates friction, long-term stability comes from compatibility. Think about what that really means. If a system forcefully traps you, you're going to fight it, right? But if it simply makes staying comfortable and makes leaving feel highly disruptive, you voluntarily adapt. You feel like you have total freedom inside the stable structure, but really, that structure is quietly dictating exactly where your improvements are allowed to lead. You adapted. You became incredibly, remarkably efficient at functioning inside conditions that simply never change. You optimized yourself to fit the mold perfectly. You aligned your behavior, your reactions, even your ambition with the exact shape of the system around you. You survived it so well, in fact, that it just became your normal. Which brings us to Section 5, when repetition becomes normal. It's just the same pattern over and over. And here's the catch. Once a pattern becomes normal, your brain literally stops evaluating alternatives. You stop imagining different directions you could take. You stop questioning your own effort. The endless repetition of waking, managing, and recovering becomes completely invisible to you, because the repetition itself feels like proof that everything is working just fine. Familiarity, routine, predictability, stability. After enough repetition, these 4 things start to feel vastly safer than possibility. Because possibility means risk. So to protect yourself, you voluntarily limit yourself to staying within the safe boundaries of what you can predict. The day looks normal. The normal becomes your identity. You stop measuring your progress by actual transformation. Instead, you start measuring it strictly by your ability to just continue the routine without collapsing. You become proud of your endurance, and quietly, maintenance totally replaces direction.
And this is where the realization hits. Section 6, movement is not change.
You were never actually trapped. You just became exceptionally good at surviving the exact same place. That's why nothing broke. There was no dramatic collapse. It's just the stark, quiet realization that years of frantic movement never produced any actual distance. The engine hummed beautifully, but the transmission was just never in gear.
You kept going. Your constant trying, your meticulous optimizing, it all successfully created this very real emotional impression that you were advancing. It felt exactly like climbing a mountain. But all the while, your actual compass direction remained completely untouched. Movement and change are not the same thing. That is the core of it. The system never asked you to stop moving. Actually, it encouraged you to move as fast as you possibly could. It simply trained you to confuse that continuous movement with actual structural change.
Nothing changed. Once the sheer act of moving becomes enough to satisfy that emotional need for progress, the desire for an actual destination quietly disappears into the background of your life. You become completely content with the feeling of traveling, even if the scenery out the window never, ever changes.
So, at what point does trying simply become staying in the same place? Are you actually moving toward a new destination, or are you just getting really, really good at surviving the exact same day?